It's recording. All right. So just get it on video. You're okay with me recording and then making this into a video?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So and just like full disclosure, if I was actually just talking to you in private, it'll probably be a little bit faster, but there is like certain stuff I would like to communicate communicate across the video so other people could benefit from this. So sometimes they'll feel like it's maybe not completely relevant, even though it is, but then we'll like
Hmm.
tie it together. Okay. So,
Yeah.
just quick background. So we did chat for about like 5 minutes before this, just to kind of get to know kumquat. I thought it sounded familiar. I actually looked it up. It's like, isn't that like a vegetable or a fruit? It's like a
It
tangerine or
is a
something, right?
fruit.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So okay. So and then I just realized your profile picture is a kumquat with armor on it. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So you reached out to me maybe like 2 days ago, and it was
Hmm.
actually kind of interesting to me because looking at your account, you probably like it probably was started what mid 2019 ish. That's what it looks like
Probably
with the
around
ID.
that time.
Yeah, and and you have like four times as many kill points as me and like 131 million power, right? You're like interested in some like coaching. I'm like, what can I teach you, right? Or not even teach you, but what can I actually like help you with? So I thought it would be really interesting to film this and then make it a video, and then we'll see what actually happens. Okay, so
Hmm.
let's actually go over. Did By the way, did you have the PDF I sent you?
Yep, I have it
Okay,
open
you
in
don't
front of
have
me.
to, but you kind of want to follow along. So if I go to like the, wait, hold on. If I go to the third page, well, actually, let's go to the second. So highest power is 151 million. It's currently at 131, right? And then like a lot of dead. So uh, you said you inherited this account about 2 years ago or a year ago.
One year ago, so
1 year
four
ago.
KBKs with the
Okay.
account.
And then since then, you've been averaging about 1 bill
Hmm.
per KVK. Okay. So it's actually like, it seems like you actually kept this account on like a good trajectory. All right. It's not like you took it over and then it started falling off. You were spending before you took it over?
Correct.
And then your spend level, I'm going to guess, is probably a little bit lower than what it was from the previous owner, but it's still like a mid, well, like a high mid spender, like sometimes even bordering on being a whale. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what it looks like. Okay, so let's actually go to the third page. So, in my real life, I own a gym, right? So I do coaching. So there's a difference for me between coaching and mentoring. So coaching is you tell someone what to do, right? Whereas like
Hmm.
mentoring isn't so much like your superior or what's the like your mentoring to me is almost like a partnership where instead of telling someone what to do, you can actually hold space for them and almost explore something together, right? So I'm going to use the word energy, but you could also think bandwidth. So if you think
Hmm.
like bandwidth, right? Bandwidth is actually what allows how much data to go through. So if you have, say, a system where the bandwidth is low, there's literally not enough capacity to actually handle enough information. And usually what happens is people default to, right or wrong. Is it choice A or choice B? So you see this a lot, even in like the videos I make and the comments. People are like, "Should I invest in Gorgo?" There's
Hmm.
context to that. There's a lot of information, but when people don't have a lot of bandwidth, where they want to go is just, hey, just tell me the answer, or just give me one choice or the other, so I could choose from. Okay, so even when I
Hmm.
sent you this form for you to fill out, I'm gonna read it because it was actually super impressive. So
Hmm.
what drew you to this game and which aspect do you enjoy the most? Literally like a friggin' like I read this and I'm like I would love for this person to be in my kingdom. If you ever want to migrate, come to 2268. But
Yeah,
also
I actually
but
applied there before.
oh really?
Yeah, but
I could tell you right now like if you wanted to go in. I mean wait okay we'll talk about this some other time.
yeah, okay, that's fine.
But when there is enough bandwidth or energy in this case, right, it actually starts impacting and benefiting other people, right? So let me just read this and then we'll go over it. So, what drew you to this game? Which aspect do you enjoy the most? I love a great strategy war planning game and the concept of min maxing my marches efficiency. I love being a part of war planning and learning and leading during war to help my kingdom members fight in an effective manner, but also to focus on a central objective. I love analyzing the battlefield and understanding what role needs to be played given the information at hand. It gives me a sense of purpose playing this game to figure out what it takes to win and what is best for myself and the kingdom I'm a part of. Also, the sense of progression in my account to hit harder and get stronger. So, someone has to have a level of bandwidth to be able to write this, right? And when the bandwidth is there, then we can actually start talking about what to do, like the nuance. But if it's not there, usually how you help someone isn't to just tell them what to do, because right, you're essentially, there's the difference between teaching them how to fish and then just giving them the fish. You actually help them start noticing a blind spot to unlock what's actually blocking them, so you can increase the bandwidth. Okay, so first thought when I read this was the bandwidth is already very high, right? Doesn't mean it can't be higher. It could always be higher, but the bandwidth is always higher. And the way to actually make the bandwidth higher for you is actually to get a bigger why, right? So right now, and this is a quick tangent, right? A lot of people, when they see the videos, they comment, "Oh, I like your videos. I like your videos." It's very detailed. What they're actually talking about is I get into nuance, right? So lack of nuance is like, okay, do I quit my job or do I stay in my job? Nuance is like, if I stay at my job, how do I optimize? If I quit my job, how do I optimize? So it's not just two choices. There's actually a bunch of different perspectives you have to manage at once. And when people aren't in a stressed state and they watch a video or listen to someone talk about that, it almost opens that perspective up for them too. And I think that's actually why they like the videos. I could just be deluding myself, but that's actually, I think, what's happening.
Yeah.
Right. So for you, I read this, but I just want to hear in your words, like what is kind of like the next step for you in this game? Or maybe it could be like a year from now. Like, what are your goals, like short, medium, long term? Maybe you have one.
Yeah. I guess maybe medium long term. I think kind of honing in and focusing on the aspect of that this is a war planning game, and at the end of the day, somebody has to do the war planning. So honestly, to better my skill set, to prepare myself for whatever kingdom I'm in, to help however I can. I think what actually drew me maybe more to going to CC'd with a friend
Yeah.
is I would have a little bit more responsibility and kind of
Okay.
control over that aspect of the game that I enjoy.
Yeah. Okay. So you're actually already kind of like touching on it, right? It's more, you probably got to a level where, you're performing on the field, right? And then it's like, how do you actually take on something more? And what's really cool when
Correct.
you're doing that is as you're taking on something more or a bigger why, more bandwidth is available. A lot of times you actually play the game better, or it almost sounds crazy, but sometimes you just make more money to support spending more. It's the craziest thing. I don't even know how to describe it. Like it's almost like the more money I spend in this game, the more I make in real life.
I would agree.
Not financial advice.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're
Yeah.
struggling, but like it's like
Yeah.
it's something about like spending more and wanting to actually say help a kingdom grow together or whatever, and then somehow I just make more money because I'm not fixated on making more money. I actually am focused on something else. So as
Yep. I would agree with that completely.
so as I read this, I would say what I would suggest is you actually start becoming more clear, like what is kind of driving you right now, and what's like a bigger why that one is fun and also a little scary that you can take on, right? So it could be moving up to a different seed. So you move to a C seed because it was with a friend, right? Yeah, I actually almost moved to it's an AC, but it's not like a very good AC, just like because it's a good friend in the game. But I also told him there's no way if I go there, I think I might quit the game because it would be really boring for me. But it could be leadership. It could be actually trying to help your kingdom move up to a next level, right? Like taking on almost like a bigger role beyond yourself, I think would actually really help you.
Yep.
And because the energy is already, or the bandwidth is already there, right? It's almost like, how do you want, as you grow into it, you take on a bigger challenge.
Right.
And then again, I don't know how you didn't get into 2268. If you're
Well, so I
interested,
did, but I
okay.
opted to go to CC instead.
Okay, I was gonna say there's
Yeah.
no way, like there's no,
Yeah.
because like even like with, if you wrote this and you sent it to him, Black Panther is either blind and deaf. No, I'm just kidding, or something's happening. Okay,
Yeah, I had a good talk with him,
okay,
but
cool. Okay,
it was all
so
love. So,
let's actually look at your account. I think you already have an idea. What do you think you need to work on?
so I think just progression wise,
Yeah.
I have a idea of where I want to go with it in terms of, right. I'm at the stage where I think it maybe not as, you know, common amongst majority of people, but now min maxing the gear because I actually have everything that I need pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Now going for the little optimizations of where to invest first.
Okay.
On top of that, also, I have the meta marches, and now it's the
Yeah.
opportunity cost of who do I bench now and
Okay.
replacing that there.
Okay. And
So,
is it like not clear to you, or you just want like another like opinion?
I think another opinion, and then maybe some, yeah, your thought process of
Okay.
if you were in my shoes, what would you do?
Okay. I'll actually go over every one of these. I'll just give, because if it's like you're pretty sure, like I don't. Oh, let's see. I don't want to word this, because if I make you tell me
Hmm.
first, then if I just like agree with everything you say, I don't think that would be what you're looking for. So I'll tell you, just looking at your account, what I think, and you can see what
Hmm.
part of it matches up and what doesn't. Okay. So
Yeah, and I'll always, reflect on what
yeah,
you're telling me. I won't ever just kind of blindly go into it. I
yeah,
think,
of
like I
course.
said, maybe later on is
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like to get a second and third opinion to
yeah.
really see if I have a blind spot
Yeah.
that I'm not
Well, it's
kind of
very
keen to.
unlikely I'm going to tell you what to do without telling you like the reasoning behind it, right? So at least I'll give you
Hmm.
the logic behind it. Okay. So let's actually go over this. How many marches do you currently run? So 6 marches mostly, and then but you can run 7 when you want to go when you push harder on tech. But it's looks like it's Trajan Ethel right now, and then for you that march is questionable.
Hmm.
Right. And I don't know if I talked about this earlier. I think your spend is about the same category as me, like mid spender on the higher side, and sometimes probably in the whale status when you want to push
Hmm.
hard for KVK. Okay. So basically, if you wanted to get some marches, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's about 17 days, right? If you wanted to just push really hard, which is kind of crazy, but if you dial it back a little bit, I think just by the pop ups and the mountain warfare,
Hmm.
um, okay, I don't want to say because I can't remember the days, but you can still get it pretty early, like
Yeah.
by what, when past 6 opens, I think what it is, or like a few days after past 6. Okay,
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I
yeah,
usually my plan is just the two mountain warfares and usually get it by Kingsland, maybe a
yeah,
little bit before then.
okay.
But
So this is my thoughts between 6 and 7 marches, right? So 6 marches you could easily do as a mid spender by the time you first get into zone 5, right? You might have to sacrifice some other tech, but you could get in there. Now, if you aren't sure, just go with 6, because you're almost kind of in like a no man's land where you're spending, you're putting a lot of resources into doing that 7th march, but you almost have to get it
correct,
early enough for it to be worth it, right? So it's
correct.
almost like, hey, listen, are you just going to commit to being a whale, or are you going to be a mid spender? But when you're like, oh, 6 and 7, you kind of want to work on the 7, you don't, right? That's like 1/7 of your resources that you have to worry about, like from like armaments to equipment to even commanders. So I would say the first thing is just kind of really like decide which way you want to go. I think that'll actually clear up a lot of the confusion for you. It's not so much that you don't know; it's that you haven't chosen. That makes
Hmm.
sense. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
And I think majority of the time, I would probably lean more towards I'm comfortable running 6.
Yeah. Okay. What is something you'd like to improve or change the game? Blah blah blah. So investment decisions, understanding opportunity costs and making decisions. We already talked about that. Gem spending at this stage of my account. Gold head investments and future planning. Creating a quote unquote 8th set to field 2 archer marches. So we'll actually go over your marches, but right now you actually only have 1 archer march, 3 cav
Hmm.
marches, and 2 infantry. Oh, 2 infantry and then 1 infantry. That's leadership. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
So I've actually thought about this. So this is all theory crafting, right? Because I don't have 7 marches. I have 6. But if I
Hmm.
was going to go 7-1, like I said, I would have to commit to being a whale. And for content creation, I actually might go there just for that. And also just making more money. Why not? It's more fun.
Yeah.
But if I was going to do 7 marches, I was actually thinking that 7th gear, I would make it all leadership gear. I think because even looking like you have like a was that like trial like what's that spear called like lost trial or you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking the
Correct.
VIP 16
Yeah.
spear, right? So that this
Hmm.
account is obviously older, so a lot of this gear came around before that. And like I said earlier too, right? You could either go for an 8th set or you bite the bullet and you actually dismantle the 7th set and make it leadership. Now I don't know which way is the right answer, so I'm not telling you, but the reason
Hmm.
why is because if you have the 7 set as leadership, so let's just say you do 222 archer, infantry, and cav, right? You can now flex because the leadership is not the best, but it can actually be uh, archer, cav, or infantry. Or you already have 3 calves, right?
Hmm.
And let's just say right now the meta is 3 calves, and you have 222. The leadership could be your 3rd calf, and if it's infantry, you could go to the third. And if it's leadership, you could do that. You could garrison with it, right? So it's very very versatile. And
Hmm.
I've thought about it for a little bit, but if I did go to a 7th set, I would go just like full leadership. Crit. If I did crit it, I would make it leadership, but then also I could use it for whatever. Right. That's the
Right.
way I thought. I like if I did go to 7 marches, I would go where you're at. Uh, you can either have an 8th set like you talked about. Um, I don't think I would actually. Let me take it back. I would think for like a long term project, you do want 2 archer sets instead of 1. But then
Hmm.
that, but then you have to figure out what you want to do with that 3rd infantry set that you're using for leadership. Okay, so that's
Right.
kind of like the debate there, right? I think because I don't think a lot of people think about this in general. The second march of any troop type is going to be worse than the first march of another troop type, right? And
Hmm.
the third march of a troop type is going to be worse than the second march of a troop type, except for this next cav wheel, which I think the meta for 6 marches
Hmm.
will be 3 calves, 2 infantry, and 1 archer, which you actually already set up for. So
Hmm.
I don't know if you planned that out or you kind of lucked into it, but you
Yeah.
actually lucked into 2 things that are very critical. I'll talk about. And that's one of them that you actually have 3 calf sets. So you're set up really well for like the next at least year and a half. Probably not a year and a half, like year and 2 months.
Right. Correct.
Okay. So hopefully that helps with that. I'm not telling you what to do because I don't know the right answer. And, telling someone to dismantle a set is really big. And for
Hmm.
the people that are watching, you know, I think it's like VIP 16. You could buy it in the bundle. You could get a legend, quote unquote, legendary weapon that's a little better than a uncrit Heart of the Saint. But if you crit it, I think the Heart of the Saint is actually better, right?
Yeah. I think a little
Yeah.
bit better.
Yeah, and then people are
Hmm.
like, "Oh, why don't you just dismantle it?" You can't dismantle it, or else people would have done it a long time ago. So you almost just have
Yeah.
to keep it. And that's actually one of his weapons. Okay. Uh, okay. So I'm not going to read this because it's kind of building upon all the other stuff we talked about earlier. So let's actually go to the last part. Is there anything else you'd like me to know that's relevant to our session? So you're a cav rally lead and an infantry garrison lead. Okay, so your CC, obviously one of the stronger players. Probably be modest. You're probably like top 3, if I'm guessing.
Yeah. Top three.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
okay, prioritize fielding as swarming structures, taking the field. Feels great to benefit the kingdom. Okay, so in CC, you could get away with doing both. And you'll
Correct.
notice as you move up in higher seed, you almost have to pick one. Do you want to actually be cav rally or infantry garrison? But the amount of resources you're going to have to dedicate to doing both is Kraken level. And unless you're, I don't know, you just move up a couple levels in your spend, I think it will actually start putting you behind other stuff because you're trying to do both.
Hmm.
Okay. So what's the right answer? I actually, so Here's the funny thing. I actually think it's more beneficial to pick what you enjoy and not what the kingdom needs. Because if it's something
Hmm.
that you don't enjoy and you're doing it, it's going to feel draining. And like I talked about with the bandwidth and energy earlier, if the energy's not there, it's just somehow not going to work out. Right. So I'm really big on like what feels good to you also aligns with what can help the kingdom. And then that way you'll both benefit. And here's the funny thing. For every person that doesn't want to garrison and would prefer to rally, there's actually another person that prefers to garrison and not rally. Right. So just
Yep.
because you don't like it doesn't mean like everyone doesn't like it. Everyone almost has their own like niche and stuff they enjoy. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean when I kind of said that there too, and I mean strategy wise, right? I
Yeah.
went for Gorgo, and that's pretty much my only garrison
Yeah.
commander,
Yeah.
because just I can flex her on the field, right?
Okay.
Actually, swarming wise, this gets a little whaley,
Yeah.
but swarming wise, Gorgo was actually keeping up with Nevsky Joan
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms of trades on a swarm. So
Yeah.
um, that's why I'd say I prioritize majority field,
Yeah.
but having that flex option with also the kind of, you know, not being able to sacrifice investing in an open field march.
Yeah.
That's why I felt pretty comfortable going with Gorgo.
Okay. So which one do you prefer more, rallying or garrison?
Um, Probably rallying if I'm
Rallying.
being completely
That's what it
honest,
sounds like.
but
If you're like
Cav
swarming,
rally
if you're like
is a little
swarming field and all
lacking.
that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also a little bit easier, I think, to be rally just because you could still use wedge, right? Whereas like you almost have to get into hollow square for
Yep.
garrison, and unless they change something with armaments, I think even for example, right now a lot of people are going into arch, and I actually did that too. If I could go back, and my arch formation is actually pretty good, but if I could go back, I don't think I would go into arch. I would just still stay with wedge, just because um, the way it is right now, it's just for one troop type to get arch, and you're
Correct.
diverting your resources to go to arch. Like looking back now, I don't think my spend is at the level where I should be doing that. I should just be pumping everything into wedge still, up in that. And even if I have like a really good wedge formation armament for say like Gorgo and Luce, for my level of spend activity where I'm at, that would have actually been a lot more efficient with my resources, and it would still probably be just as good or better for that troop than when I went to Arch. But at this point, I already spent a decent amount on Arch, and I have a decent set. But like looking
Mhm.
back, that's actually a mistake I made. I didn't think about it until after the fact. So
Yeah.
we'll get into your armaments, but
Yep.
if you're rallying, that's actually a lot easier as far as like what you're doing with armaments too. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Let's actually get to your gear. Okay, so Nevsky Joan, Gorgo Luce, Boudica ZL, Guan Scipio, HQ William, and then XY and Justinian. All legendary. We talk about that. Is it called like Staff of the Lost, Trial of the Lost? I keep forgetting the name.
Trial of the Lost, I
Okay,
think.
cool. And then I'm guessing, just based on everything you tell me, you didn't actually make this second infantry set. It was probably already made when you inherited it, but
Correct.
you lucked into it because that's actually probably the best set for
Right.
Smite
Yeah.
Commander. So it actually worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so first thing looking at this, you have 4 horns and 4 rings,
Hmm.
right? So you literally make one more, and it's like automatic crit,
Correct. Yep. My
right?
next one is
Okay,
going to be
so
for sure crit for both.
you that's that should be the next two things you craft, obviously, right? And
Hmm.
other than that, I don't know if you have any like thoughts or questions. I don't actually really have much other thoughts on this page, at least.
I mean, it then gets to the question, I think, right underneath it with the gold head of
Yeah,
replacing and benching Boudica for Herman.
yeah,
I clearly understand Herman is the clear upgrade,
yeah. So the way
but
to
now understanding the opportunity cost of benching
yes, so the way to think
Boudica.
about this too is like, what's the shelf life of Boudica, right? Because so
Hmm.
like at some point you're gonna have to replace her, right? Whether it's okay, fine, you're not gonna skip, you're not gonna invest in Herman, right? You're gonna wait for the next Archer cycle. At some point, you're gonna have to replace her. So really, like the kind of debate for you is okay, do I max Herman now? So February 21st or whatever today is, and have
Hmm.
Herman for um, probably about a year. I think it's like a little bit less, maybe like 11 months, right? But just let's just say a year. So I have Herman
Hmm.
a year. So the upgrade of Herman over Boudica, or do I save the gold heads and wait another year for a archer that's better than it's going to be better than Boudica to replace it,
Hmm.
right? So is 677 gold heads worth the downgrade of Boudica from Herman for a year for you, right?
Yeah. And I
And
mean, I would say so. I think, I mean, I have time till next fighting, so I'll get a
yeah,
few more heads, but,
yeah,
and also just at the current gold heads now, I can obviously afford to max it. But it just, sour taste in the tongue to
yeah, yeah. I
bench
get
a
it.
commander,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah. Have you benched a commander yet?
Um, I mean, I guess technically, I mean, historically, the past commanders,
Yeah, but but
but not necessarily
but not
recently.
one on like Boudica's level.
Correct.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, I almost feel like you just got to rip off the band-aid and just once you do it once, then you're like, okay, you know what? Like I'll live. And who knows? Boudica's skills could show up in like I don't know, probably not a Bastion, but like for
Hmm.
these different like KVKs and stuff.
Yep.
And
With
yeah,
like
like yeah, I
auxiliary
think we'll all
skills.
have
Yep.
to confront that. I think in general, this is kind of a tangent. Most people's problem isn't that they make the wrong choice; it's that they're not making a choice, right? So, like
Hmm.
something my mentor told me that really has made an impact in my life is you just make a choice, it will make a decision to make it right. And
Hmm.
even if it's not the most efficient, like the momentum of choosing and making the decision will actually eventually carry you to the right decision. Okay, so like I'm here to
Hmm.
provide a little support, make a decision, but actually think it's pretty clear that you should invest in Herman and just bench Boudica unless something happens
Yeah.
where like something synergistic. I don't know because the if you look at the current Archer meta, right, like Asher Benapol is
Hmm.
actually the fourth. So
Hmm.
when the next Archer comes out, Boudica will actually probably still be relevant.
Hmm.
Uh, or you know what I mean? Like it's there's actually a lot of potential for her to still be around. But right now, like for where you're at, like the upgrade you could get from Herman over Boudica, I think it's like pretty clear cut that it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I am leaning that way.
Yeah.
So by the time for next fighting, he'll be
Okay.
max on the field.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then we have Trajan Ethel over here. I already talked about the leadership gear. You actually also have a Hammer of the Sun and Moon.
Hmm.
If Gorgo wasn't so slow, it almost would be worth it to just stack all attack
Yeah.
onto that set. But you have the versatility there. Um,
Hmm.
Again, I'm not telling you to dismantle that. It would really hurt to dismantle this. I mean, not
Yeah.
the hammer. Regardless, I wouldn't touch that. But
Yeah.
that's just something to
Honestly, I'm more leaning towards,
yeah,
do I just create the eighth archer set
yeah,
so then I can flex two archer
yeah. And you
marches,
honestly,
or
what
the leadership set.
yeah, and this is like more speculation, but if you look at how like games typically go, as it goes further and further, naturally, I think it's human nature. They'll put in some kind of mechanism or system where it's not so hard for newer players to at least be competitive or within the range of older players.
Hmm.
And I almost wonder if down the road something will happen where you could dismantle legendary without losing all of your materials.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where like if it's not pressing where you really need it, and you're if you're spending about that level, like you're getting like
Hmm.
2.5 pieces of like legendary per month.
Hmm.
Or if you diverted all your resources towards it, it's not like too bad. So probably just
Right.
keep it. But I would like actually suggest. Well, yeah, okay. You don't have two sets of archer gear. Okay, I'll actually let you figure that out. I don't know the right answer. I would have to think about that even
Hmm.
more and tell you what I think. Because like
Hmm.
if it was me, I would prefer 2-2-2 and then one leadership for 7. that could
Hmm.
flex, but yeah, okay. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know for sure.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm honestly, I'm currently happy at 3-2-1. I
Yeah.
think the 3-2-2 or
Yeah.
2-2-1, right? That would
Yeah.
be, I guess, that's a whole another conversation. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I have to think about it a little bit more if
Yeah.
it's even worth it.
Well,
Because then it does, right, revive, I guess, Boudica in a way.
yeah.
Because then I can downgrade her to the second. But
Yeah.
I think that's in itself is going to be a long project anyway
Yeah.
to
But
craft a whole new set.
3-2-1 is most likely the way to go for this next when the next calf cycle comes out. And I don't know. It's actually it's almost like they're making the rally, even Garrison like commanders more field relevant. So
Hmm.
I don't even know. Like who knows? You might be able to like run 4 calf march, and the 4th calf march is as good as the second archer march. It's like crazy. Um, it's kind of annoying
Hmm.
actually, but why
Yeah.
calves always seem to always get like the benefit of the doubt. But what do you do? Okay,
Yeah. Rise of Calves.
yeah. All right, let's go over your armaments. Okay, so
Yeah.
where attention goes, enemy energy flows.
Yeah.
Okay, so compared to everything else, the armaments are really far behind.
Yes.
Um, Now, what do you think the holdup is for you as far as armaments?
Um, I mean, I would like to believe, and before transmuting and re-rolling, I've consulted other people as well too.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I've bricked a couple of really great armaments that are at 0 out of 10. But I mean, the update's coming, so I guess it'll revive that.
Wait,
But
say that
there's,
last. Can you say that last part again?
yeah, I've kind of bricked, like, basically not gotten any upgrades
Yeah.
for some of the like elite tier armaments. Like
Yeah.
I had a um, infantry 3.5 with
Yeah.
legendary inscription, rolled
Yeah.
it 10 times, locking the middle stat 10 times, and
Yeah.
haven't gotten an upgrade. So um,
Okay.
I think maybe it's probably a little bit of luck, but also I'm open to believe that it's user error.
Okay.
um, that I'm not prioritizing and locking
Okay.
and using my stones
Okay.
effectively.
Cool. So I think this thought process will really help you out. Okay. So it's not always the case in everything in life, but in this game, there's a minimum threshold you want to hit, right? So your commanders have to at least be at a minimum threshold, or else it just becomes so you're at such a disadvantage. You'll actually really notice it. Once you get to that minimum threshold, you can still improve it, but the gains become more incremental. Okay, so it's
Hmm.
almost like in this game, the first goal is you want to shore up all of your weaknesses, right? So
Hmm.
there's your commanders, there's your equipment, there's your armaments. You want it to at least be at the minimum threshold. So what it sounds like from what you're telling me is you were really aggressive, right? So you got
Hmm.
3.5 and you went for it all, whereas like the way it was this second iteration where you can reroll is you only get 10. So you were hoping to
Hmm.
at least maybe get one. You got unlucky, you didn't get one, and then now something that started out really promising was just unusable.
Hmm.
Right. So I actually made a video about this. I don't know if you watched it, but
Yeah,
if
I watched
you
a bit of it.
okay, but
Hmm.
if you start out at a good place, right? So let's just say you have a 3.5, right? And then
Hmm.
something comes out, or let's just say it's like 1.6. You're like, that's terrible. Uh,
Hmm.
you okay? So let's just say you have a 3.5 attack, and you roll, and 1.6 defense comes out. What would you do with that?
Um, am I currently using that armament or am I not currently using it? Because I think
Uh,
that maybe factors into it as well too. Like if it's
yeah,
automatically an upgrade there,
yeah.
then
You would keep it.
maybe keep it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And then focus elsewhere.
Yeah, right. So even though it's not good, at least it boosts you a little bit further ahead. So then you can actually do something that's a lot more higher risk. So
Correct.
remember I talked to you about how you got lucky. One, the lucky thing is you have 3 calf sets, and then also that
Hmm.
infantry set that was a horrible mistake that turned into a good play by accident. Not that you
Hmm.
did it, but whoever did it before. The other one is with this whole new armament system with rare inscriptions, a lot of people's armaments that they put a lot of resources into are actually going to go to waste. Okay.
Correct.
So you'll actually be able to close that gap really quick.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the way to do the armaments is figure out a stat, a baseline for you. So if I look at your cabs, right? So just the stats here, you have about 25% of stats, attack, defense, health, plus 1.9 all damage, and then the hunter, which
Mm-hmm.
you inscribed on in there, and then vitality and shielded. Shielded is it defense? 3.5 defense.
3.5 defense.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So
And
if you
3.5 health.
perfect. So if you add the stats together on there, right, that's about 32% of stats plus all damage. If you count that as just one for one, that's about 34, 35. And the hunter, that's like for where your account is at, the rest of your account, that's about the minimum threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now with the new armament system, right, they're gonna increase they're gonna get rid of all of the crap that you get from traveling. So you just get armaments. You're actually gonna get a lot more crystals. So the minimum is gonna be a little bit higher now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now if you have a hunter inscription on one, you're already like a fourth of the way there. To just for full transparency, I don't have one hunter. We've lost the last three KBKs, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any. So it doesn't mean you can't do it, but like you kind of get what I'm talking about, right? So
Yeah.
I would say like I have to see when it comes out and kind of where people are at because it's not so much like what percentage feels good to me. It's you almost get a gauge of where other spenders are, the whales, the krakens, where they're at, and then I can actually tell you where I think it should be. But if I had to take a guess, and this is just a guess, I think like just base stats, kind of what we're talking about, attack, defense, health. I think that number will probably push like closer to like somewhere between 28 and 30 for somewhat for a player of your caliber where your stuff is at. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of your first goal is to shoot for that. And if you're going to shoot for, let's just say 28%, that means 2.5 of each stat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now all damage, some people count it as 2 for 1, 3 for 1. Up until this one, I've just been counting that as 2 for 1. I don't even know if it's actually that good because essentially you're trading damage for health, which depending on the troop type in your gear, it could actually be way more important. But let's
Mm-hmm.
just count it as 2 for 1 now. And so if we count the Cav 1, right, you're at about 27%. Right. So like kind of on the lower threshold, you get one upgrade, you're there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get there, if for your Cav set, you want to really like be aggressive and everything's like 3 and all your resources go into there, that's fine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't, at first I thought maybe you didn't understand the armament system, but talking to you and seeing everything else, I don't think it's a lack of ability to understand it. I think you were just too aggressive with how you went about
Mm-hmm.
it. Because I'm looking at like your inf arch set, uh, like even your
Mm-hmm.
like when I labeled as inf one, so your wedge formation, that's like 13, 14. It's like 20% robust spike and shielded. It's just kind of low
Correct.
for where you know what I mean, like it because
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's
No,
either
I agree. I think armaments is the area that is lacking the most. And I think, I mean, again, like you said, lucky enough that I'm heading
yeah,
into an update that's benefiting my situation.
yeah. So I would
But
say like if there was the biggest area of growth for you is to actually start looking into armaments more, maybe watching more videos, like almost like removing whatever barrier you have with it. And then if
okay.
you do invest, I would actually just let your material naturally accumulate, and you get that ring and horn because just guaranteed crit. Like why not, right? But almost everything will actually going into getting your armaments into a decent place. I think that's where like value wise, like the amount of resources you're spending versus the upgrade, that's where you'll get the most value.
Hmm. I agree.
Okay. What else was I gonna say? Oh, there is like an event coming out in the next few days. I think it's called like In Search of Wonders, right? The
Hmm.
compass event, and like every 10 you get a guaranteed inscription. And what I'm guessing is that's gonna come out when the rare inscriptions come out, and when the
Hmm.
rare inscriptions come out, it's almost like a reset. So even though you're again, I don't want to make it seem like it's terrible, but like you are behind in this relative to everything else, it's like an
Hmm.
easy way to actually rapidly catch up, and you almost like lucked into it because I know that wasn't
Correct.
your plan.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
100% agree. I mean,
yeah,
um, I did spend some stones going into fighting, but then actually pumped the brakes as soon as I saw the update release. So
yeah.
I'm sitting right now at around 40, 50 stones
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
to
Oh,
heading
yeah.
into the
Oh
update.
man. Okay, you're being a monster. Hey, 2268. Get your friend to come too. Okay, but because like I'm looking at everything else, right?
Hmm.
Like because if you upgrade like equipment from like iconic 2 to 3 or whatever, that's like 1 or 2%. Whereas this, besides like the first one, maybe like the Cav one, everything else
Hmm.
you could probably like easily squeeze like a good like 10 to 12% out of it, and like you'll
Correct.
that's very noticeable on the field.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, you have any like comments or questions? Because I think that's the last one, right? Yeah, that's the last one.
I guess maybe one aspect
Yeah.
that we didn't touch on is the idea of spending gems at this stage and point.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken the understanding that for a lot of my upgrades at this point is very material is materials are the bottleneck
Yeah.
essentially,
Yes.
not necessarily blueprints.
Yeah.
So now I need to focus gem spending towards that bottleneck because I think having excess blueprints but not being able to do anything because I don't have the materials
Yeah.
isn't necessarily
Okay.
kind of
So
helping
you
me
have the
for
blueprints
growth
you need.
wise.
You have the blueprints you need. You don't have the materials.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, if we just take a peek at like ringhorn, that's
Yeah.
born, and
Yeah. That's
then
like 200.
um, technically, I mean, this would be more of a flex, and I don't think I'm actually going to do it. But getting Sacred Dominion to 5 by next KVK,
Yeah.
that's expensive. But
I mean, you're a
again,
Cav.
those are
If
all
you're a rally
right.
lead, like you almost have to go
That's
that
true.
route, right? Which is why like rally and garrison, that's really a whale cracking thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. I would agree. So you can't, again, something could change, right? But you can't really spend that much gems even if you wanted to on armaments. So you have to spend money. Uh,
Hmm.
so if you do spend money, I would actually put it into armaments to get it to just like a reasonable place.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say like if anything, shoot for like about 28% base stats on average for each one of your
Hmm.
marches. It's not that hard to do if you just divert your money towards that. And then
Hmm.
once you're there, it's kind of up to you. If you really want to be aggressive with a cav set because you're a rally, go for it. But yeah, like everything should go towards materials unless you don't have blueprints or blueprints and materials because that's where when Lilith made that change, that's essentially to like here's the carrot for you to work on for the next 2 or 3 years. And
Right.
if you're doing 7 sets, 6 sets, it's gonna take a while, right? So I think you already figured this out with like gold heads. So, like you're accumulating more than enough. Like and that's as a rally. Like for someone like me that just wants to open field, once I'm
Hmm.
ahead, I probably will never. I want to say never, but rarely spend any gems or money on gold heads again, just because you don't need it. Like you're actually accumulating it fast enough, and then like every 3 cycles, you get a break for the most part with range or
Hmm.
leadership commanders that aren't useful.
Correct.
So yeah, I would say it's probably equipment for you.
Hmm.
Okay, so to summarize this, take on a challenge, put yourself outside the comfort zone a little bit, find like a bigger why. It could be moving up a seed, 2268, taking on a bigger role in your kingdom, maybe even trying to help other players improve, help them fight better, right? It's like I get it. It's really frustrating when like if people work together, like the effectiveness of your kingdom will be so much better on the field, and it's just like people just do stupid shit, right? And part of it comes from like doing good migrations, recruiting good people. Part of it comes from like education, and when you're taking that on, it's almost like a thankless job. But when you see it materialize on the field, it's actually very satisfying, right? So like that's actually part of the reason why I make videos. And then beyond that, when you talk about a video game, you could bypass a lot of the stigmas or blocks people have. But these ideas and principles apply to every aspect of life. Okay,
Hmm.
and then consider what you want to do with your equipment. Right, you have a couple options, I think, and then focus on armaments first, get it to a good place, and then everything else just goes into materials, and then blueprints is needed.
Hmm. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, like you're in a great place, and Seems like you're probably doing pretty well in life. So it was really awesome chatting with you.
Yeah, yeah, good chatting with you too, and happy to support, help the channel however I can. And again, really appreciate the content you're putting out for the
Oh,
game.
thank you. Yeah, thanks, man. Okay, cool. Yeah, stay in touch. I think we're friends in game. Any questions or comments, you always shoot me a message.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, man. Have a good day.